Welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here with co-host Chip. What's going on, Chip? Great to see you here. As always, 24 hours goes by, and we're back on with the smartest crypto minds in all YouTube space. Man, today we're going to get into this idea of, I should have put Crypto Monday, Cyber Monday. There's all sorts of great deals as you look over into the coin market cap or coin gecko. But more than that, Chip, there are so many things that seem to be coming out like on a daily basis. Not just that people are becoming billionaires with their NFTs. So you got to look back and say, hey, have you achieved billionaire status yet with your NFT? But you know what? The one thing is for certain that the SEC seems to continuously ignore the plight of the XRP holders. And as always, John Deaton's dropping some great tweets. There's some great articles in the space, some other great minds. There's some great projects to review. Things are looking a little iffy over in Turkey, and MicroStrategy is doubling down and buying more of the Bitcoin chip. So
getting
ready
more,
to talk
more. Let's do it. Let's jump into it.
You ready to kick this thing off?
Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
Yeah, welcome to On the Chain. Jeff, remember that 40-second intro we used to have?
Yeah. A really long one.
I was starting to think this one's too long, but I think it's appropriate. I think it's good.
Dude, the outro is so cool. When I started the other day, I started with the outro.
Did you really?
Then I realized, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. Let me play the intro. And I wouldn't play the intro. People were like, what the hell's going on over there?
Well, all I see is ads in the beginning part of it. You don't even see that because you're waiting for the live stream to come on, and then it starts playing the ad, and I'm like, oh, man. So you gotta get to the ad. It's just a whole sort of a thing.
That's it.
Jeff, I thought we'd open up the show, kind of like preface it a little bit for some of the cool stuff that we're going to get into. But I wanted to show this tweet right here. This kind of like is going to sum up what's kind of we're going to chat about tonight. But I wanted to look at this. This is the inflation numbers worldwide. Let's take a look at this right here. So, well, obviously, look at Venezuela, 1,575%. And then the next closest one is Sudan with 366%. Jeff, that's outrageous.
And are you sure those aren't cryptocurrencies?
they potentially could be, right?
So yeah, those are your gains for the past 24 hours.
Yeah, well, maybe
get some Venezuela coin.
Zimbabwe, 55%, Argentina, 52%, and it goes all the way down. But then you look at what you talked about a little bit about Turkey is already at 19, almost 20%. Let's call it 20%.
Turkey's in trouble.
Round up.
Yeah.
Turkey's in big trouble. And what's interesting is that some are turning to crypto, others are buying USD, which I find, again, if that's your savior, USD, then we got bigger problems than we know, right? Especially where the general public's buying a lot of USD over there, and that's but just look at all these African nations. You got Haiti, 10%, Brazil is almost 11%, Russia at 8%, Poland at 6.8%, Mexico 6.2%, tied for the US.
Man, Argentina.
Then you have Spain and Ireland. Ireland's coming in at 5%, just over 5%.
Nice.
So it's kind of interesting. We'll keep an eye on that to see how that rises over a period of time. But I thought that was just kind of a good way to start it. And what we're hearing more and more from the people who are crafting the narratives out there as far as crypto is concerned is that the best hedge against inflation is crypto, right? NFTs, basically staying in that space.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. And that's why when I was looking at what was going on over in Turkey, and, they're really getting off of the lira and they're moving over to the US dollar because their lira has no more value. And it's just chaotic over there in the banking space, similar to Venezuela, that inflation, forget about the 1,000,000% percentage loss on their currency, just everything else going on. But I look at this digital asset space. I'm like, man, why doesn't everybody want a little piece of this? When is there going to be, complete adoption of the crypto space? And you think about, now we just got just like a small percentage of the population into crypto. I'm looking over here at the coin gecko. I'm like, man, these are some serious numbers. The past 7 days, you got 2.3% gain on Bitcoin. You got 12.2% on Binance coin. And I'm looking at these, these gains, and then I'm looking at all those, inflation numbers that you're showing. And I'm like, hey, maybe there's a correlation as the fiat numbers keep getting worse and worse. The rest of these numbers potentially could be improving, but man, then you got people like the Gensler and a number of those people out there that are a little nutty. But anyhow, I want to give a quick shout out to Papa Hodl. That's my dad, by the way. So he's hanging in there. He's learning about the digital assets. So it's all good.
Yeah, my dad watches. He doesn't get into the chat, but he does watch. And I said, "Well, what did you think?" He goes, "I don't know, man. You lost me early on." He's like, "I don't know what you're talking about, but it looks like you know an awful lot about it." So, but he just watches. So I'll give a shout out to Dad, maybe Mom, if they're watching. So potentially, sometimes they'll call me or text me stuff during the show too, which is or a question he'll ask. But there's an interesting article. I thought this one, let's tie this one right here too, because this one here's another amazing sort of, here we go. I was sharing what happened. So look at this. There's so crypto is a hedge for 46% of Russian retail investors, a survey. According to the survey, Bitcoin was the most popular crypto in Russia in October, outpacing coins such as Tether and Litecoin. Why is Litecoin in every scenario, Jeff? And while we're on the topic, you said the CoinGecko. It's like the proper name of Home Depot is the Home Depot, but nobody ever calls it the Home Depot. They just call it Home Depot, and they keep the Home Depot apparently.
And it's the Bitcoin, it's the CoinGecko,
it's the Bitcoin, the Litecoin. Why is the Litecoin, Jeff, in every single darn article? I'm telling you,
man, it keeps crawling, it keeps creeping in, man. It's one of those.
Why though?
Man,
Jeff, you have to have a reason.
It's a silent winner right there. It's got like, first mover advantage. It's still in play. Man, it's sitting there at what, 200 and it was like 275 the other day.
Right, but on CNBC they're always like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and there's Litecoin. Once in a while you might see XRP if they're not calling it Ripple.
204. It's $204, man.
It's respectable.
So it's man, and then it's a couple spots under Shiba. Shiba's sitting at 4044, which is pretty nice. And then XRP, the best stable coin on earth, sitting there at $1. $1.
Right now, look at that right there from K HUD. Appreciate that. That's great.
Nice.
Good guides.
And Chip, yeah. So thank you, K HUD. Appreciate that. Appreciate everything. And another huge shout out here to Lee Hout. Finally caught a live show.
Lee.
Thanks for all you do.
I'm back.
You're back.
He's back. Hey, that hair is getting long, man.
It's getting crazy. It's getting out of control.
It's getting crazy, man. It's almost it's getting longer. let him grow as long as he wants, Jeff.
Have a good time.
That's what I would do. Let him be a rebel.
Yeah.
Unless he's
can you close the door?
Unless at school they say, you gotta look respectable, kid. You can't be walking around like that.
Man, getting out of hand.
It's awesome. So Jeff, look at this. It's like, so I'm my bigger surprise about it is 46% of respondents. Okay, I would have thought it'd be a little bit over 50%. Close enough though. Allowing them, it says the respondents viewed cryptocurrencies as a potential defensive asset, allowing them to hedge against financial risks at times of economic crisis. In other words, now push the button, and then
Now's the time to do it.
Then you got Fed chairman out there. You got Powell, Jeff. He's out there saying silly things like with this Omnicon or omnipotent or whatever it is thing out there. He was saying all these big words, but I think what he was really trying to say is it's time to start printing more money, Jeff. I think that's what they're trying to figure out.
Get that press warmed up.
Get it warmed up and start printing more money, just because that's where they're headed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you laughing at there? Something's going on in the chat.
I was just looking over here. XRP Speedboat said, Jeff, bigger head than you means bigger brain. Yep, it's possible. Very possible.
Yeah, very possible. I would say most likely possible.
Most likely possible.
I would say most likely, Jeff. It's
most likely.
It's kind of how it works,
Probably like 99% possible.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, something along those lines. Why don't we jump into I want to actually, this is kind of a neat one to open up. A former Ripple employee Also formerly of Warren Davidson's office. You know who this is. This is none other than Ron Hammond. And so he put out a ripping thread today. I don't know. It's like a pretty strong one.
Oh, this is good. Solid stuff.
It's good stuff. This week in Congress and crypto, it's going to be a busy next few weeks here in Capitol Hill. For crypto, the big event will be Wednesday, December 8th. This is the House Financial Services Committee hearing on digital assets and the future of finance. Here's the latest. So this was kind of cool. We talked to Congressman Tom Emmer a little bit about this. You know, he kind of smiled and said, well, because we were basically making the point that at least they're not talking about the threatening death knell of crypto. It's not called that. It wasn't called the deceptive nature of crypto. No, it actually had a very decent sort of digital assets in the future of finance. Whoa, this is happening in Congress? Is there progress being made, Jeff, potentially?
Man, I think this is a positive overall because it's being discussed. But, you know, the takeaway from having Congressman Emmer here with us is that he said there's just too many within Congress that don't get it. And the one woman that's chairing that committee, this just isn't her wheelhouse. And not only is it not her wheelhouse, she doesn't care. You know, so if she doesn't care, what are the chances there's going to be some motivation to get it passed through committee? You know, we saw one thing that went through and it's still sitting in the Senate. But I'm just optimistic. You know, I'm happy that there's hearings. I'm happy that they keep bringing it to the table. And if they keep hammering bills like this on a regular basis, eventually, you know, just by osmosis, those that are sitting there within the committee will start absorbing a little bit of knowledge. So it might take longer when you do it through osmosis, because if you ever tried to learn anything through osmosis, it doesn't always work really well. You know, but you start picking up little tidbits, like just little words here and there. So you start getting the terminology, and then you vote on it. Then they still don't have to understand it as long as they get the terminology down. Hopefully that's the case.
John Doan saying Sir John's back on the OTC wagon. There's Sir John making a recovery, an absolute big recovery from being sick for a little bit there. Bullish Mr. K says XRP separating from Bitcoin as we speak, Jeff. So that's nice.
Sitting at $1.
It's at $1. It's gone up a cent since you made the thumbnail.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was on sale. It was on sale a little earlier. You could have got it for 99 cents. Actually, it was down earlier in the week at 90 cents, which was pretty exciting. Yeah,
it went down. You know, it's on sale, like you pointed out.
Man, GDLT, when I brought up learning by osmosis, GDLT saying Osmo is a token is awesome. So I guess there's an osmosis token. It's osmosis.zone. Interesting.
Huh. Don't know much about it.
Nothing.
Have to learn more about it, Jeff. So Ron Hammond goes on to say, witnesses are still being finalized by the committee. And this is always an important one, too. Let's just hope the witnesses and the people they bring up there are not academics. They're not from academia because, gosh, we are in big trouble, because they don't really have a clue what's going on out there in the world. They're protected in their academic little biosphere, if you will. But it says, but it seems that the targets for this hearing will be executives from large crypto companies such as exchanges, stablecoin issuers, and payment providers. Witness lists usually become public a week or so out from the hearing date. That doesn't look like that's the case here. And then it says, it's likely there won't be legislation tied to this hearing. Big shocker, not. There are both good and bad connotations with this, as it signals a desire to learn more about the issue from the members of Congress before proposing legislation to address an addition or policy concern. And Jeff, I'm just curious, what might we expect from some of the questioning, the line of questioning? Will it be like when Facebook execs went in there and they said, tell me more about this book face? No, it's Facebook. This Facebook you talk about. Seems like sorcery. I log on to this thing called the internet and press buttons and people can read my things. You know, that was just, it was like Neanderthals on parade, you know?
Oh God, it's so out of control. But, you know, based on what we were just talking about, you know, Ron is basically hitting that, you know, spot on. He said, it's likely there won't be legislation tied to this hearing. He's probably right. No. You know, so the outcome again is that more people are going to learn about it. But I still think, we need to wait until 22 until you're going to see any positive legislation come out of Congress, come out of committee, because there's enough on one side that really want to push positive legislation. Although, we've also seen the other side of it. So not everybody's perfect. I just say there's more. There's more right now on one side of the political aisle that are pro crypto versus the other side. But there's bad in both, because there's still going to be some that don't understand it. There's going to be some that are going to speak out of naivete of the space and make statements in reference to. But still, the majority. I mean, look who we have. We have Loomis. We've got Emmer. We've got Davidson. We've got Kennedy. We've got McHenry. We've got there's a long list on one side of the aisle, and then we've got Darren Soto, Democrat, and then we've got there's a couple others, just not as many, so, but I think they're little by little we're starting to add a few more, and that part's exciting. So to this point that he's saying, it signals a desire to learn more about the issue from the members of Congress, and that's what we want. Exactly. Before proposing more legislation. So how could they vote on it anyways? Like, if it went in front of committee right now and they discussed it and they don't understand it, I would feel that they would probably vote the wrong way, and they might not vote in favor of it, or they're going to try to cram legislation into some other crazy bill like the quasi infrastructure bill, and they're going to cram crypto into it and harshly penalize those that mine crypto, those that run exchanges, those that run nodes, et cetera, and it'd be based on the fact those that voted for it didn't understand it. They don't know what it is,
Not a clue.
So, yeah.
Not a clue. So he goes on to say, conversely, there are other good bipartisan pieces of legislation like the Token Taxonomy Act, which I think is fabulous. Yep. I think that, Congressman Emmer addressed some of the things that are sort of, he thought he tried to do too much rather than be a little bit more simpler. The Securities Clarity Act, which is Tom Emmer's, and others that would like to see considered, but it seems the committee will be taking a more fact-based approach. Of course, here's a tweet by Warren Davidson. You want to take that one, Jeff?
I like this. He's saying this could be resolved and prevented by passing my bipartisan Token Taxonomy Act. And that's something we've said from the beginning. So it's interesting. It'd be amazing to have Warren Davidson and Tom Emmer here together to dissect this idea. So Warren Davidson is going to continuously push his big bill, right, which is all inclusive. And then you have some others that are running with sections of it. So Tom Emmer is a perfect example that's taking components of the Token Taxonomy Act and running with it. So if you get little pieces of Token Taxonomy Act, maybe you get more understanding. Eventually they vote on the big legislation. They keep putting it out there, which is great. But I like this. Innovators, regulators have a bright line standard defining what is and isn't a security. The Token Taxonomy Act should be noticed for the upcoming 12/8 FSC hearing, and really should be. And that was a true bipartisan bill because it put together with Darren Soto and Warren Davidson, just as the he brings up the the Securities Clarity Act, so that's important too. Also bipartisan. Both two very, very critical pieces of legislation. What's obvious, and Chip, that we wouldn't be here today sitting here talking about Gary Gensler had they passed that and Congress had done their job and really educated one another on the crypto space and passed the Token Taxonomy Act. We wouldn't be in this position today.
Right on. And basically, he was basically re-quoting Charles Gasparino from Fox Business, saying that the Fox Business investigation, the biggest issue in crypto today, talks about the SEC v. Ripple. And it was great that's what he was commenting on. That's what Warren Davidson was saying. That could be resolved right away and prevented. And he's absolutely spot on and right. Then you've got this other one, as the tweet thread continues, the last major crypto hearing in HFSC was the Oversight Subcommittee, America on Fire. There you go. A nice, catchy headline. Crypto hearing in June. The difference between that hearing and the December 8th hearing is that the June one was a smaller set of members and focused heavily on consumer protection. And of course, extending the narrative that crypto is bad, Jeff. It's bad. It's nefarious. Meanwhile, more nefarious undertakings have happened with fiat currency, then it'll take hundreds of years for crypto to catch up. And he says it's uncertain if there will be additional hearings later that day or in weeks on crypto. In Libra, we saw a second panel of witnesses who represented academia. Former regulators and industry. And that hearing was less covered in the media, but it was still equally important. As details come to light over the course of the week, keep an eye out for the Senate Banking Committee as they await responses from the stablecoin issuers on their business practices and regulatory obligations. Those responses are due by the end of the week, likely a hearing soon. What do you think is going to be the fallout from those letters written to both Circle and Tether?
Man, yeah, what is up with that? All of a sudden, it seems like they're singling out the stablecoin. They really have an issue with stablecoins right now, and we also see the same exact conversation by the Bank of England. We obviously see a very similar conversation coming out of China. You see a similar conversation coming out of India. I really don't know what to make of the direction they're trying to go with all of this. Tether, I get it. You want to call them out because maybe they haven't done the right third-party audit to really highlight or underscore that they're somehow linked and it is stable, or it is tethered to something, pegged to something. But Circle, it's not bad. We really should know whether or not they're truly holding value in an account somewhere. But they've been doing that through a third-party audit. That should be the requirement, that there should be third-party audits on stable coins, so we know what they're tied back to, what kind of value. Shouldn't all be fiat. It could be a mix of other assets, but
yeah, no doubt. He finishes it up with a final note for those unfamiliar with the Washington, D.C. There is no reset in Congress for 2022 since the elections are in November, and then the new Congress would take over in January of 2023, and then therefore assume Congress will pick up where they left off in terms of business after the holidays. That means more crypto hearings and legislation. Yeah, it means more hearings, but I'm not 100% convinced it's going to be about, potentially, is going to be about the, I would like to see it though, but at least this is a positive. This is one of the first positive glimmers we've actually seen positive heading, and they're kind of taking a cue from what Australia just went through. Australia passed some very significant legislation, but they did something smart. They went and said, hey, let's go talk to the people who know about this and can educate us. They talked to R3, they talked to Ripple, they talked to a number of different exchanges, and they said, well, we don't really know about this. Tell us more about it. That's the way to go. So I'm wondering if they're taking a cue from what other countries have done successfully with regard to legislation. So it's interesting to see somewhat of a shift, but it's actually a good shift to see. And I'm somewhat optimistic, but again, sort of careful as well.
You got to be cautiously optimistic when anything is going through government and through Congress. But to that point, I think it's really, really critical to understand, as we look at the way our government is constructed and the way bills need to be discussed and how they need to be then passed through. Typically, bills, cannot be passed through expeditiously, which is one of the reasons why you see presidents signing off on executive orders, because they realize that they're not going to get the votes for something. And then you see all the inner wrangling, between, everyone kind of trying to figure out how they can benefit from passing a bill, and they go out and lobby and they have to petition other congressional representatives to vote on something. But our whole structure system of government was set up that way because bills have to go slowly. Imagine if you could just pass a bill, just like that, we'd have all sorts of chaos here. This way it drags out and out and out, and it takes a long time to get these bills passed. It could take a year or longer, and it's all part of the process. And it's really frustrating sitting back and watching this process, but when the crypto space, I think a big part of it, because we're not even seeing discussion on it. And it just comes down to, they don't understand it. And they just don't seem to have a desire to understand it. That's, the difficult part, but more and more are getting getting to a point where they have to understand it. We saw, with what Loomis did and what Kennedy's doing, what Emmer's doing, super, super outspoken. And they're holding these people to task, and just, you don't have to understand it like we all understand it. They just have to know that it's something positive. I think Citizen was saying, you said they won't understand it, but how is that any different than Pelosi saying you have to vote for it to find out what's in it? Just sign the damn bill and cheer on America. I mean, that's what we want to see, just vote for it. And it's not even that complex, Chip. If you look at the Token Taxonomy Act and you read through it, it's not thousands of pages like Pelosi's bills that were disastrous. So you got to vote for it to see what's in it. I mean, that's insanity. You can read through the Token Taxonomy Act and understand it very, very clearly, and that's the distinction, or like Gary Gensler not reading the safe harbor. He didn't read it. It doesn't seem to care.
He doesn't want to admit cop to it, but he had to. Yeah. I mean, just curiosity killed the cat, right, Jeff?
I think he was reading it when he was in the bathroom, possibly.
So K-Hud says, thank you for that support. It says, in the confusion, how nice would it would be to have a decentralized middleman asset for the world? Yeah, that would be how nice. But I think that's where we're headed. I think that's where we're headed with the DAOs, the decentralized autonomous organizations. I don't know that we'll get there with government, but I believe at some point, because of computers, because of modern day, we no longer need a representative to send to Washington and say, here you go, pal, or, good luck and represent us. We believe in you. And then they get over there and they're in these swanky parties, hanging out with the other side, drinking martinis all night, basically behind closed doors, talking about how they're going to get their share and good luck we don't need that anymore.
Sounds like a pretty good gig.
So a decentralized middleman, or just, you might even eliminate the entire middleman all the way, but I get the sentiment there. Jeff, I want to say every once in a while something gets pointed out to, I get tagged in a lot of tweets, and @_XR pizza tagged me in something. It usually tags me. He goes by Ripple Eye on Twitter, and this right here is really incredible. This is something called the Commissioner's Corner. It was a Q&A with Dan Gallagher and Joe Grundfest, and so a little bit of history about Grundfest here. He was a former before he joined the Stanford Law School facility in 1990. He was a commissioner at the Securities and Exchange Commission. So he was a commissioner, just like Hester Peirce or, let's say, Elon Roisman. He was a commissioner, so he does have a little bit of experience and understanding. He's also a prominent expert on capital markets, corporate governance, security litigation. His scholarship has been published in the Harvard, Yale, and Stanford Law Reviews. He's accomplished. He's done a lot in his world, in his life, and he's accomplished. And so he's on this amazing panel, sitting here with Dan Gallagher and Joe Grundfest. And so Daniel Gallagher is a chief legal officer of Robinhood. Joe Grundfest, we just talked about him. And then there's William Franke, who's a professor of law and business at Stanford Law. So they're having this little discussion. It's weird. This is only from a few months ago. It was actually from May 13th, 2021. But I want to play this one thing, and then I want to get your feedback on this, Jeff, see what you think. Hopefully I've shared the audio, but let's listen in.
All right.
If you don't hear audio, let me know.
Gensler's request for legislation, the way I read it, was a massive cry for help. All right, because I don't think the SEC really knows what to do with this situation in terms of if it had the job to write regulations. All right, and Commissioner Pierce, she's got her proposals, but the probability that would get critical mass at the agency is not huge. And I think quite wisely, Chairman Gensler is saying, look, we need help from our bosses, and our bosses here are Congress. So Congress, you tell us how you want to handle this. In the interim, I'll be very candid. I'm not impressed with the job that the SEC is doing in this space.
So he's not impressed, Jeff. What do you think about what he said there so far?
No, I think he's spot on. Yeah, 100% spot on. They're not doing their job. They're not. They don't get it.
Well, he's about to get a lot more real right here. Let me back it up a little bit. He's about to say some other pleasantries here, but it's real. It's real criticism. This is somebody who's accomplished, right? And it's been there and it's done that.
Like the guy at the top with
With
the
the job that
blackboard.
the SEC is doing in this case.
Okay, so let me back that up. I missed that.
So Congress, you tell us how you want to handle this. In the interim, I'll be very candid. I'm not impressed with the job that the SEC is doing in this case. All right, and by the way, let me disclosure. I'm an advisor to Ripple in the XRP litigation, so I just want everybody to know that. I don't play these games as some others do. So in my view, this is not the set of issues, many issues that should be resolved through litigation. These are issues that you need to face and you need to address through regulation. It's been a battle at the agency for decades over the notion of regulation through litigation. All right. And this, I think, is one of the best examples of a case that's being inappropriately litigated when instead the matter should have been dealt with through rulemaking. Because you litigate this stuff, it's a blood, you're not going to get any guidance for the market. Everything is going to be so narrowly focused on what the circumstances were in this particular case. You're not going to have expert testimony from technologists and all sorts of other people that you need in order to come up with a rational policy. It's not going to help the world. All right. What you need is, absent, guidance from Congress, we need clear positions from the SEC to explain what works and what doesn't. And we know litigation will never get you there.
Yeah, Jeff, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think what he said at the very end is the most important. He said litigation won't get you there. And, we've heard this multiple times over and over and over again, and obviously when you're faced with litigation, you're going to fight back, and you're going to fight back, aggressively. As we're seeing with Ripple, they're not taking this standing down, or sitting down, but that point, even Tom Emmer, referenced, so many have referenced how Gary Gensler's approach to this whole thing, it's by enforcement, but his ideas are not that far-fetched from the rest of the administration, because, we also see, much of their policy is very aggressive in tactic. It's not, hey, let's figure this thing out. It's, hey, we have an opinion and you're going to do exactly as we say, based on our opinion. And if you have a different opinion, even if it's based on fact, you're wrong and you're going to do it our way. And that's exactly what we see with Gary Gensler, that same exact attitude. It's, I believe 99% of cryptocurrencies are securities. That's it. That's fact, because it's his opinion. And that's not the right attitude. And if he's going to do things like that and by enforcement, then there is no partner in the SEC, and he's off the reservation. So what are your thoughts? Am I wrong with that?
No, I think you're spot on, man. I think you're making a great point. There's one other piece of the video that I wanted to share. I hope I got the right part, because it's a long video. We're not going to sit there and watch the whole thing. But
sound.
It's an environmental disaster.
Right. But let's just say hypothetically, the day before that, he had said to all his friends, sell your Bitcoin. I'm about to tank this thing all the way down.
So what he was talking about was this. Remember, this happened back in May. This was when Elon Musk said he wasn't going to take Bitcoin anymore, and they're talking about environmental blah blah blah, all this stuff. But there's something.
Is there anything against that?
The short answer is there may be authority at the CFTC side. All right. And on the Bitcoin thing, look, let me go back and do some ancient history over here. When the SEC said that Bitcoin wasn't a security, and they said that it wasn't a security in part because it was sufficiently decentralized, I just sort of heard that and I sort of said, well, this is like crypto amateur hour. What's going on here? All right. Because if you know anything about hash power, all right, and Bitcoin, at that point in time, more than 50% of the hash power resided in China. If you look at the Cambridge University data, approximately 65% of Bitcoin hash power today sits in China. Well, if you've got more than 50% of the hash power, you can cause a hard fork, and in effect take over the entire chain, and you control the chain. Now, as a practical matter, politically, all of the hash power in China can easily be brought under the control of the Chinese government in about a millisecond. So what that means is that the Chinese government has de facto control over Bitcoin. It can cause a hard fork. Now, how is it possible that the SEC says that under those circumstances, Bitcoin is sufficiently decentralized? I don't get it. I mean, is it that they didn't know that there was that much hash power that resided in China then and now?
So how interesting is this, Jeff, that the narrative has changed like dramatically from May, where you had at least 75% of the mining happening, to China shutting it down, seeing it as a threat, even though you know they're doing it behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah, it must be.
But, you know, but again, of all places, Texas and the U.S. becomes the next big central point of setting up. But what Grundfest is making the point here is that how can it be sufficiently now to do a 51% attack? You know, you is it practical to be done? No, but someone like that has large pockets could definitely do it. Somebody like he is kind of insinuating that potentially like a large government, China, a lot of governments could potentially do that. And he's saying, how is it decentralized if that is the ability for that to happen? Thoughts?
Yeah, you know, it's I'm trying to get an idea of, you know, who Joe Grundfest is. You know, where is he coming from with all of this? Because he really understands, you know, the nature and dynamics of what's happening, and he's very clear, you know, making a statement that these guys don't, you know, they don't know what's going on, and to me that's a little, you know, terrifying, you know, to an extent where you have decisions being made, or at least opinions being given on topic that they don't understand. And here you have, and how many times have we referenced where Gary Gensler taught? You know, he taught at MIT, but he didn't teach English literature, you know, or biology at MIT. You know, he was teaching blockchain, and yet he doesn't have any science background or, you know, technical background in blockchain. He does have some economic background, so maybe we could reference that he's talking about, you know, the benefit of reading technical analysis, you know, on cryptocurrency, you know, but that's not, you know, really what his courses were getting into. And I think one of the things Grundfest is also highlighting is that even the leadership, you know, they are just clueless on the full technology, because if they weren't clueless, then they wouldn't make the statements that they're making. You know, specifically to that reference point of when they were saying that Bitcoin was decentralized, that a government had a majority control over the mining of that one asset.
Right.
You know, now what would happen? You know, a question. You know, I don't know exactly what happened. You know, so China says, hey, you know what? We're shutting down all mining operations. They shut it down, but Bitcoin doesn't go out of existence.
Right.
The mining operations still continue. So what happens now that, you know, the 50 to 60% of controlling interest of all the miners in China have now shut down and moved elsewhere? What impact did that have on the hash power of Bitcoin?
It's incredible to see how different just a couple of months can make, you know.
It's crazy.
Dinah Washington had a song back in the 50s called "What a Difference a Day Makes," and this is like in crypto, that is like the ongoing sort of I mean, you wake up one morning and you wake up to red, a sea of red, and then the very next day, not even the next day, everything can turn green again. And so,
it's amazing. And so you look at Grundfest, right? And he has let's say a degree in what is MSc? I'm not sure what that stands for, but it was from the London School of Economics. He has a BA from Yale. He has a law degree from Stanford, and he has a doctoral study in economics from Stanford. So he's a lawyer and an economic scholar. You know, so his understanding of both the legal aspect and the economic aspect of what's going on in the digital asset space is, you know, very, very astute. You look at some of the organizations that he served on: Foreign Corrupt Practices Act Clearinghouse, Stanford Program in Law, Science and Technology, Securities Class Action Clearinghouse, John M. Olin Program in Law and Economics, Arthur and Tony Rock Center for Corporate Grievance. And then I'm just looking through all the things that he's done and been a part of. Just really interesting, on who the minds are, behind this. And yet, you have Gary Gensler comes out, and is so adamant that he's accurate on everything. And man, you got to say, Gary, go talk to Grundfest. Why don't you guys have a sit down and come up with some real opinion?
Yeah, so an MSc is a Master of Science, and I will pull up the.
I just thought it was an MS. That's interesting. I didn't know there were. Okay, that's interesting.
So I'll pull up
that little C threw me off. Got it.
Yeah, little C is kind of deceptive there. So this is from the. This was actually probably one of the programs he did. This was the London School of Economics and Political Science. It's a 2-year route for MSc Economics, designed for students who have a sound quantitative background but lack the necessary knowledge in economic theory and quantitative techniques. For the 1-year program, you should have a strong academic qualification with an emphasis on quantitative subjects such as mathematics and statistics. So it's not your average Joe that's going into this program, right, Joe? I mean, Jeff. Right, Joe? Average.
That's right.
Jeff. It's better they say average Joe, not average Jeff, because Jeff's way above average. So that we don't have that problem.
1970, he got his master's in 1972. So this is interesting too, because he got his BA in 1973. This is all that was leading up to Swift coming into fruition. Think about that. He got his degree in economics pre-Swift, and the guy's more astute on blockchain, than the majority of those in Congress and the SEC. I mean, he knows his stuff, and so
it's safe to say
obviously
he's
he's consulting. Yeah, and he's a lawyer, or he's got a JD. I don't know where he ended up. You have to dig a little bit further, but he was obviously a commissioner of the SEC. Guy knows his stuff, and it's really great to see somebody, that has some at least a different thought process, going through this. Just looking where else he was, and he was a research associate at the Brookings Institution and an economist and consultant with the Rand Corporation.
Yeah, man. Good. I mean, just a solid resume. I mean, you compare that to someone like a Gensler. Funny thing is, he was a commissioner. He was never the chair. But again, he also brilliantly said, and he put the disclaimer out there. So like, yeah, I'm a consultant. Why wouldn't you want to consult Grundfest and have him? Because he's one of the few that understands it. And Reg Mabry is saying, thank you, Reg, for that. He says, Gensler is not a lawyer nor an expert in crypto. And that's a really solid point, Reg.
That's right.
He's not an attorney, right? He portrays himself as a former, professor. But I even watched a lot of his teachings, the ones that's publicly available on YouTube. The jury's still out. He said he can be made a fool and he has to cite cases. Yeah, very good point. Yeah, well said. I don't understand how this guy, even sitting in some of those interviews, goes on to saying, thank you for that XRP supercar. Appreciate that as well. But the CFTC, Jeff, there was a statement by Commissioner Don Stump regarding recent joint statement by the OCC, Federal Reserve, and FDIC on crypto assets. And this is probably worth talking about too. It said, Don says, earlier this year, I released a primer with respect to cryptocurrencies and other digital assets. My intent in releasing the primer was to provide clarity as to the CFTC's legal authorities when it comes to these assets in light of recent growth in their popularity and the prevalence of confusion and misunderstanding regarding our regulatory function in the space as directed by Congress. A couple of shots taken there, Jeff. Nice. A shot taken at Congress, a little shot taken at, the whole space in general. Since issuing the primer, I've encouraged all regulators to provide clear descriptions of their existing authorities. Sounds to me like they're kind of calling out the SEC here. Please give me a description of your existing authority to the participants in public. Only from that point can we determine whether gaps exist and properly evaluate the need for any new laws and regulations. Otherwise, we risk stifling innovation due to poorly understood objectives and uncoordinated responses. Getting out the big guns here for the SEC. Therefore, I applaud the recent joint statement issued by the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, better known as the FDIC, and the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency on Crypto Asset Policies. I'm pleased these federal banking regulators have joined me in an effort to provide greater clarity around the impact of existing laws and regulations on certain crypto asset activities. Clearly, outlining the application of various existing requirements is foundational to advancing proper oversight. This is a big statement right here. This really clearly outlining the application of various existing requirements is foundational to advancing proper oversight of these products and their various utilities. This is, to me, Jeff, this sounds very proactive, and let's go regulate with litigation, you know.
I think that's key. And this goes back to, you know, the point within the digital asset space that is, there's so much that's changing. And, you know, you could just focus in on Bitcoin and say, well, Bitcoin, it was a currency and it was going to replace banks, and now it's a store of value, but Bitcoin, and that's it. You know, or Ethereum for smart contracts, and there's nothing else that's going to ever replace it. I like this fact, clearly outlining the application of various existing requirements. Hey, that's great. But then, you know, proper oversight of these products and their various utilities. That point is right there. How many utilities of the products are there? You know, how expansive is this space getting? How expansive will this space get? You know, at what stage are we even in right now? We're, 10 years into this, and we're talking about, the monetary system has, how many hundreds of years in creation, how many, stock exchanges, have there been over the years? How much trade has existed over the years? How many different asset classes have we gone through over the years? And now this one, 10 years. 10 years.
10 years.
And look at where we're at in 10. I mean, it really is. I mean, when you look back and you say, okay, over 10 years, a lot can happen in your life, but we were talking about restructuring economics as we know it, and putting power into the hands of people all over the world. To me, that's happening in 10 years. Of course, it's going to get pushback and resistance. Right. If you got no pushback and no resistance, if you weren't creating enemies along the way, then you'd be doing nothing of note. There'd be nothing important about what you're doing, because that means that nobody cares to critique it. Nobody cares. It's not a threat. They're just going to let it go. But the fact that there's so much resistance right now is amazing. I think it's the best part of it. It's kind of like someone was saying that they got rid of the thumbs down on YouTube, and I think they're, across the board, they're going to start getting rid of things like that. Why not have it? How great was it? We do a live stream. It's like, oh, someone gave us a thumb down right out of the gate,
So
and you could love it. The commentary, imagine all the comments are just like, hey, you're doing, everything's amazing, and then you get that one person that critiques you, and you're like, well, here, explain it to them. Maybe you win somebody, or you might say, hey, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I was looking at this incorrectly. Maybe I need to rethink my position here. You can't always give out participation trophies.
Yeah, well, they did that because government officials around the world are embarrassing themselves, and you have a video, they have subscribers that are over 100 million, and then you see there's 200 likes, and then there's no thumbs down, 200 thumbs up. No, and it's like, so it doesn't take it doesn't take a mathematician to figure out what's going on there, Jeff. So something's out there. Check that out. Susie Casilla, thank you so much for that. It says, you both are a wealth of knowledge. Your number one fan. Jeff, we have a number one fan. That's awesome. Thank you, Susie.
That's right.
Really appreciate that.
That just put everybody on notice.
Everyone else on notice. Number one fan, Susie.
She's claimed it. She's claimed that right.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So I want to get through this next one right here is a big one. It says, as digital assets play a larger role in our financial system and the economy as a whole, those who invest or engage in activities related to such assets, as well as the general public, they're entitled to clarity as to how this new financial asset class is regulated in the United States. Until we remedy the current confusion about the application of federal and state regulators' existing legal authorities with respect to digital assets, we cannot have an honest conversation about whether any agency needs new authorities. Now, that is a direct That's a direct hit right there on the SEC.
That's direct, right across his bow.
You remember Gensler coming out saying we need more authorization, we need more of this, we need more of that. He was calling for that, and
God,
and she's rightfully pointing out you can't have an honest conversation about what any agency when there's zero clarity.
How could you do that? I mean, it makes no sense to me. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to take all this power. Yeah, but we don't understand where the power belongs. You know, he's just running out, you know, declaring and claiming without anybody understanding. But that's also due to the fact, you know, when you have a little bit of, chaos going on and, you know, things seem a little bit messy, that's the perfect point to move in and start taking claim to some authority. Because if you're the one to clear it up, then just by default, they'll say, hey, you know, why don't you just take it? You know, you fixed it up. You understand it. You take it. And that's what he's trying to do. You know, it's kind of a, man, I don't like it. You know, I don't like his personality. You know, he's just one of those people that just will rub you the wrong way no matter what. You know, you could be, you know, someone that you're, you know, a friend, or at least within your circle of friends. It's that one person that just, you know, just doesn't, you know, I don't know. There's just something about it.
Yeah, there's
always is
ambiance.
right. You're always wrong, you know, and he's always trying to pull one over on everybody, you know, and trying to take credit for things. You know, it's just like, man, how annoying. It's just like, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and right here it says, she finishes it, before considering any overhaul of our regulatory structure as it relates to digital assets, in parentheses, and to avoid regulating these assets through the exercise of enforcement authority, let's get the facts straight about our current system. So this is an excellent statement by Dawn Stump. She is the commissioner of the CFTC, and this was the So I just think that's just phenomenal.
Yeah, but there's another point there that, you know, if you look at the laws that are on the books today, right, there's laws that cover so many different things, right? And then they try to create new laws, but you're like, wait a minute, there's already laws covering that. You know, you don't need a specific law for every little thing that comes up and be reactionary when there's certain things that take care of it. Like, you know, we've talked about this so many times. You know, if you want to look at companies committing fraud, hey, you know what? There's already authority given out for people that are supposed to take care of someone that commits a fraud, someone stealing, someone, if they create a pyramid scheme, if they do whatever it is, there's laws on the books. Just because you have a brand new asset class doesn't mean you need to run around and start, you know, taking authority when nobody understands exactly where, you know, the dynamics are yet. Man, it's just people are starting to wake up to the reality of what's happening. And it's great because the people are awake. As long as the people are awake, then you won't allow those that are in control of the wheel to constantly, you know, turn us in the wrong direction. You know, at some point you say, you know what, we're taking away, pull over. It's my turn to drive. You're done. Get out of the driver's seat.
Yeah, get out.
Had enough of this nonsense.
Exactly. It's so, Jeff, just as like a little funny aside here, I thought this was pretty amusing. I just kind of put two and two together here. So it's Binance resumed Dogecoin withdrawals after a tech issue and an Elon Musk spat. So there was a little bit of a dust up there. Says Doge is flowing again at Binance after an unfortunate coincidence triggered a technical issue. And what
does that mean? What's an unfortunate
Elon Musk and Binance CEO CZ Changpeng Zhao got into a Twitter spat about it last week, right? So they got into this sort of like I don't know if they have it here, but they got into a bit of a Twitter back and forth, right? Doesn't really matter what was said, but here's the funny thing. So today, CZ comes out with a new contest, and it's like, I'm giving away a Doge Tesla and 50,000 in Doge. Which one do you want? So now this is a brilliant right here. This is some brilliant marketing, how you make good on the whole idea of, okay, so now, Jeff, this is interesting because I don't care what it is. It could be Doge. It could be any crypto you want. Now, how do you do this? Well, first of all, to enter, you have to retweet. You have to follow Elon Musk. You got to follow Binance. And you got to follow CZ. Then you got to have a KYC Binance account. And then you tweet the price you want and why with hashtag Doge or Tesla and at Binance. Wow, what a great way to make lemonade out of lemons. This is insane.
Oh my God.
And so the favorite
That's
answer
awesome.
from each team will win. There you go, Burr, right there.
That's awesome. I mean, that really puts it out there. I that's really smart. CZ has always done a really good job kind of putting himself out there, center stage, and connecting with with the followers and with the community. I think
Which
he does
one
a
do
really
you want,
solid
Jeff?
job with that.
Jeff,
I would go with the Doge.
I would too. So
I don't want to
hear from the
depreciate
chat.
an asset.
I want to hear, if you're watching on the replay, put a comment down there. I want to hear, I'm just curious of what everybody's thinking out there. If you had the choice, okay, you can have 50,000 in Doge, or you can get a Tesla. Which one do you prefer? Which one would you rather have? Throw it out down in the chat. Throw some of them up on the screen here. But just curious what people are thinking here, because my whole thought here, Jeff, is like, okay, so you get a car and it's in the driveway and you're like, okay, it's great, whatever, you pay your tax on it. Now you get 50,000 in Doge. You could flip that like that. You could buy 10 different assets with it, 10K a piece. You could be buying assets all along. So
yeah.
So Susie says neither. She doesn't want neither. But if you had to, let's just say,
he's giving you an option.
I want to know
Doge
if you would
or it's a
choose.
Tesla. Now, it's
bullish. Mr. K says, "Give me some Doge." Sir John says both are crap. Susie's like, I'm not a fan.
Not a fan of either.
Tesla is the most unreliable car. Doge Tesla. It's funny. A Doge Tesla. That might be the worst car. I mean, a Doge Tesla, not a regular one.
Well, the Tesla, it's gonna have a big, face of the Doge on the front.
Yeah, and Apex
hashtag
says,
Binance.
Hashtag Binance.
Free advertising. Free advertising.
Because he's not a Doge fan. I'm like, so you don't have to be a Doge fan. That hits your wallet. Boom. It could be 50,000, and just think about it in 50,000 in terms of USD equivalent of spending capital to be able to buy whatever you want, XRP.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pay tax on either one. So
look at this. Overwhelming. We got Bro XRP says Doge. Sean Thompson's all for the Doge. Copperpot says Doge to XRP. There you go. You got it right there. I'll Doge for XRP too, Mr. Bullish, Mr. K.
Get it in your upload. You can have it move straight to Doge. Or
okay,
straight to XRP.
Here's some creative thinking. Patrick Patterson says the Tesla because I could sell it to a Doge millionaire for $250,000.
You know what? Now he's thinking. Now Patrick's thinking, because if they somehow customize the Tesla as a Doge Tesla, I think he's probably, Patrick's onto something, because the value of that Tesla, you're right, would just skyrocket immediately. It'd become a collector's item overnight. That would be it.
That's a really good point. That's what I say. We got some creative thinkers in here, Jeff. And let's see, what else do we have here? Let's see. Wait, did Jeff just say Doge would not depreciate? It's a meme coin. Doge for Flare Finance to stake it. Oh, there you go. See, I like that. That's Dr. Orlando.
So now he's really thinking, because Flare is going to work with Doge. So yeah, man, you get 50,000 in Doge. Yeah, you can.
Susie weighs in on Tesla. That's how much she despises Doge. But again, it's what. Look, I mean, the fact is, it has a use case thanks to a Flare network.
Well, at least it will.
And he says probably Doge. Probably Doge. Yeah, then we have John Doe says the Doge Tesla will likely be a collectible. Yeah, there you go. See, everyone's thinking in here, Jeff.
So don't
Feature
drive it
Doge
around.
Lithium Chow. Paul Prince says wait for SEC to go after Flare. Doge, then flip it for XRP, says Hans Loaded, who I might say is doing an amazing job with the chapters, Jeff.
Yeah, he really is.
Thank Hans.
Chip, did someone say cassettes?
Maybe.
The usual, sir. Please.
Please. The usual, sir. Please. That is too funny.
XRP Speedboat is still trying to buy a brick in the wall.
Just another brick in the wall.
We will eventually.
G says, can't believe the first crypto to go to the real moon will be Doge. Doge, launching by SpaceX in Q1. There you go. That's right.
The Doge.
It won't hit the moon, but it will be in outer space, technically. So we shall see. Anyway, Sir John says, epic one. All right. And So that's all we have. I mean,
It's
you guys
epic.
know. You guys know when we broadcast. You know what we do here, right?
Hey, before we
You know the thing, Jeff. You know the thing.
You know the thing. I don't have to tell you the thing. You know the thing. Come on. Here, just one last note. NFT exchange Opensea. I just want you to get an idea of where some of these companies go, right? They made $28,000 a month when it launched 4 years ago. You would say, hey, they're making $28,000 a month. That's pretty good. They were actually going to shut it down if they didn't double. And now these guys are about to be crypto billionaires.
Sometimes,
man, look at that. Its founders decided it would fold if sales didn't double by the end of 2020. Then they hit the goal by September of 2020. Now the company transacts billions of dollars. Man, that's it. Just and they were just fees. Man, they thought the NFTs were disappearing back 4 years ago. They thought they weren't going anywhere. And the gas fees, get the gas face. So
big time, Jeff.
No wonder these guys, those guys aren't billionaires because of gas fees, but they are billionaires because of the fees they collect when you transact. And someone else is getting rich as well. But anyone that's using Ethereum getting very poor every time you buy something.
That is right. Well, that's all we have, Jeff.
That's it. You realize that we are streaming 6 days a week?
Sunday through Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. And tomorrow night we've got a special guest. You guys will have to tune in to see who it is, but it's somebody from the crypto Twitter sphere. And you guys probably will know once this person is introduced tomorrow night. But yeah, we will be doing it tomorrow night. I know Jeff has got some business things to tend to, so he will not be here tomorrow night, but it will be myself and the special guest, and we will be going through some stuff, some projects and some enlightening stuff. That's what I'll say that, and that's all.
Some stuff, you know that thing.
You know that thing, Jeff, that thing,
thing.
that crypto thing, you know, that thing.
That crypto thing that people tune in for, that thing.
That thing. All
and
right,
the lemon tree.
That's all we have,
the lemon
guys.
tree.
We'll catch you tomorrow night, Jeff. We'll catch you very soon. And Chip and Jeff out. See you later.
We're out of here.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.